Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy this video, we invite those of you who haven't yet done so, to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the notification icon, to be notified when the next one is uploaded. We'd like to urge those of you who haven't yet done so, to sign our online petition for an inquiry into the BBC and Channel 4's coverage of Lewis Hamilton and Abu Dhabi. A link has been provided in the description. If you are on X, then please repost our tweet. Thank you. Okay folks, in this video we will be providing our takeaway from the F1 75 live event at the O2 Arena, which we happened to come upon by chance on YouTube. Do let us know who you thought made the best presentation in the comments section. For us, it was a bit of a mixed bag, but without a doubt the highlight was the Aston Martin Aramco presentation. Those of you who have seen our January 2022 video titled, Lewis Hamilton, Know Your Worth, You Are the Greatest of All Time and Well and Truly Loved, urging him to go to Ferrari after Toto had withdrawn the appeal to the robbery of his 8th title, may be aware that the young lady who was featured in the soundtrack Know Your Worth, that inspired the video, is Tems, the same artist that put in such a captivating performance for Aston Martin. That was one heck of a show she put on for them, and it looked to us that Lawrence Stroll was deeply enthralled. And when Lance said, "She looks pretty good," we thought, "Oi, you cheeky bugger, looks like the apple didn't fall far from the tree." We would very much like to know who the director was, and how they knew to pan to Lawrence when they did. We would also like to know how she came to be selected. Did Aston Martin make that decision or did F1? Tems' performance had such an impact that we now know things about Aston Martin, a team that we never gave a second's thought until 2 days ago. We now know that they came 5th last season. We now know that they are sponsored by Glenfiddich, something that we had never noted before, despite being a partaker of whiskey. We now know that they have a team principal and CEO, other than Lawrence. So, there you have it, Aston Martin made the biggest impression on us, and if anyone knows whether this was their doing or F1's, please let us know in the comments section. We were also struck by the reception everybody gave to Sir Lewis, from the audience to Jack Whitehall, the other presenters, and the cameras. We were particularly struck by his choice of the word invigorating, and the explanation that that was because he was so full of life and had so much energy because everything was new. There was an aura around the Ferrari team that augurs well for the season. This was in stark contrast to what obtained at Red Bull. It was surreal to see a brand that basked in its racist reputation playing the DEI card, at a time when it had been outlawed in their biggest market. Was this the same Red Bull that fired its top American executives for supporting the Black Lives Movement back in 2020? Or the same Red Bull that hosted a competition where President Barack Obama was racially mocked? Or the same Red Bull, whose founder that they dedicate their victories to, is one of those listed in our Axis of White Supremacy video? Oh well, never mind. It looks like their philosophy is you can behave as badly as you like publicly, as long as you have the means to gaslight people into seeing you favorably. But here's the thing, if it was working, why did Max and his teammate have to be accompanied on stage by a boisterous rente mob? Was this a choreographed attempt to drown out the expected boos? Why were the Red Bull drivers the only ones not to speak? Was this because they wanted to avoid Max being booed? Why were they the only team with the principal coming on separately and before the drivers? Was this because they wanted Christian to take one for the team, while avoiding Max being booed? What did Christian mean by "it's fantastic to be here in the O2, anyway"? Sounds like he was feeling a bit fruity about being booed, and wanted to punch back, but courage failed him. Whatever the case, it was instructive to see F1 and Red Bull going to such extreme lengths to limit the opportunities for Max to be booed. Ouch. Unfortunately for them, someone forgot to tell Jack, so when he opened by introducing Max, F1's most popular driver was roundly booed, and Jack had to attempt some recovery by saying "Cheer up Max, it could have been worse," we didn't seat you next to George Russell. One can't help wishing Max and George would end up at Red Bull or Mercedes, so that George could understand how much he's being hyped up. Who does he think would have to make way for Max, if he were to ever come to Mercedes? Anyway, never mind all that, we have now reached the stage where F1 are no longer trying to sell Max, they are solely focused on limiting his exposure and opportunities to taint them by association. How long before angsty Max gets a right royal rollicking from Liberty Media during the season? Moving swiftly on to Mercedes, looks like Jack did not share Toto's opinion that it's worse to lose an engineer than a driver, because he sure mocked the hell out of him for losing Sir Lewis. The Mercedes presentation was surreal as they tried but failed to ooze confidence, when everyone else knew they were imploding and it's only a matter of time before they start breaking down publicly. We were initially scheduled to do a video on that, but had to defer it to do this one, but we'll get right on it when we finish this. Hopefully it won't be too late by then, but what the heck, we just had to do this video. Anyway, back to the Mercedes presentation. It was amusing to see them going back in time with images of Schumacher, who made his name at Ferrari, but never won any races while driving for them, and Sir Lewis, who made his name driving a Mercedes engine car and has now gone on to greater things at Ferrari. Mercedes were never able to overshadow Schumacher's legacy at Ferrari, but Toto has now presented Ferrari with a golden opportunity to bury Sir Lewis's Mercedes legacy. Oops. We turn now to the F1 film that is expected to be this summer's blockbuster, and was heavily promoted during the event. We are not sure, but we didn't catch any glimpse of Max or Red Bull in the promo for the film. If anyone did, can they please let us know in the comments, if he was featured or not? We are struggling to understand why the most popular driver and the most dominant champion ever in the history of any sport is being shunned by Liberty Media and Hollywood. What is going on? Why are they all fiending for the goody two-shoes black goat, who they broke the rules to usurp? As for McLaren and Lando Norris, we don't really have much to say, apart from it's very hard to refrain from calling him by his moniker, but we are trying to stay on the straight and narrow. It's a bit like watching a young child who has lost badly on sports day, been rewarded with a consolation prize as is the norm nowadays, and then seeing that kid start mocking or showing that prize off to others. It's one thing for a child to do it, it's quite another for a grown man. Last year, Lando set the worst ever record for losing while driving the winning car, and is celebrating as if he's a worthy runner-up. It's one thing for his team to try and gaslight us, it's quite another for them to be gaslighting themselves. But guess that's only to be expected from a team that performed the most remarkable improvement ever in F1, on a level that would put Lance Armstrong to shame. To recall, McLaren finished a lowly fourth in 2023, 458 points off the leader, who scored almost treble their tally. And lo and behold, the following year under the same set of regulations, and after the FIA tinkered with both Red Bull and McLaren cars, they managed to effect the biggest turnaround ever in the history of any sport, to end up topping the table by just 14 points, while Red Bull dropped down to third, 77 points away from McLaren, who by the way scored 666, but don't appear to read the Bible or mind bearing the mark of the beast. Sounds like Zach Brown keeps a permanent suite at Hotel California. So people, to conclude, Aston Martin Aramco, Andy Cowell and the Strolls definitely caught our attention with their presentation, and we were equally fascinated by F1's efforts to shield Max and Red Bull from being booed. Don't WWE scripts play on the public reaction to their villains? Wasn't this what Liberty Media wanted for F1? Last but certainly not least, we were quietly reassured that the positive energy around Ferrari will bear fruit. What a fortunate stroke of serendipity, that the artist that was featured in our tribute video urging the GOAT to go to Ferrari, is the same artist that stole the show at an event marking the launch of his debut season at Ferrari. Forza Ferrari.